Hello and welcome to All About A-League, the show that's all about A-League, Socceroos and everything to do with the world game in Australia. My name is Gabriel D'Angelo and with me to talk about all things A-League is 3ZZZ broadcaster Bernd Merkel. Hello Bernd.
Hey Gabriel, how are you going?
Good, thank you. Journalist for Neos Cosmos, Alex Inifantis. Hello Alex.
Good evening Gabriel.
And our very special guest tonight is Melbourne City and Socceroos striker Jamie Maclaren. Hello Jamie, thank you for joining us. Before we go back to the boys on the couch, let's go over the results for round 25 of the A-League, which started off on Friday night with Brisbane Roar defeating Wellington 2-1. On Saturday, Melbourne City and Adelaide played out a 0-0 draw. The derby between the Wanderers and Sydney ended in a 1-1 draw. On Sunday, Melbourne Victory defeated Central Coast 2-1 and Perth Glory secured the Premier's plate by beating Newcastle 1-0. Now over to the ladder, and once again, there's been no change with Perth Glory remaining on top, with Sydney FC second, Melbourne Victory, Adelaide United, Wellington Phoenix and Melbourne City making up the top six, while Newcastle, Western Sydney, Brisbane Roar and Central Coast make up the bottom of the ladder. Perth Glory have won their first piece of silverware in 15 years, winning the Premier's Plate for the very first time. Starting with you, Bernd, what did you make of Perth's success so far?
Well, if you look at the ladder, we have that saying, the ladder always tells the truth, right? So if you're on top after 25 match days and you already secure the Premiership, they definitely deserve it. So I think they had an outstanding season and only 2 losses, played really very good football and well deserved. So congratulations to the team, both the team on the pitch, but also the people that worked in the background.
Well, of course, as Peter Philopoulos was telling us a few weeks ago, this has been an effort that started a few years back, and Perth have shown constant stability this season. So they've been the team that deserved the Premier Plate most out of all the teams. So yeah, of course, it goes to them.
As I mentioned earlier, we have a special guest with us on All About A-League. Jamie Maclaren has had a storied career so far, which has taken him to Germany, Scotland, the World Cup and the Asian Cup, and it's not over yet by a long shot. Jamie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
I just want to start off by asking about your early days. You left when you were 15 years old to Blackburn Rovers. Yeah. What did you gain experience-wise? Did it mould you into the player that you are today? And do you recommend other young Australian footballers to go overseas at a young age as well?
Yeah, look, I think it moulded me as a person, not a footballer. I learnt things quickly. My mum's not there to cook my dinner, to open up small things like opening up a bank account. All little things like that, they add up as a young kid over there in a country you're not familiar with. So for me, that was the period of my life where I look back and say that turned me into a man. I went from 15 to 19 at that time and really enjoyed it, played with some fantastic players and had ex-Socceroos look after me, and Brett Emerton and Vince Grella as well. So that period of my life was great, and I owe a lot to that club.
So then you played in Brisbane 2 years and you had 2 outstanding years in Brisbane. So once you were tied on the Golden Boot, the other season you became second, scored 40 goals I think in 57 matches. Do you feel like there is some kind of expectation, so obviously not for this season anymore, but for next season, that people think, he's going to be back in that Golden Boot competition race?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, expectation always comes with strikers. And, for me, I'm the only striker in Australia in the A-League anyway that's done 20 back-to-back. And that's something I was proud of and something that I achieved through, hard work and obviously working on my weaknesses. And at the time, I had a fantastic manager in John Aloisi who, being an ex-striker really helped me on the little things that you don't really quite pick up on. And, he was great for me. And there's going to be expectation, but if you didn't want to have that sort of pressure, then you shouldn't be in this game. So for me, it's I live for that, and like I said, I'm here for the big moments, and like I said, I can't wait to obviously start next season. But there's a long way to go in this one.
Jamie, you've had a career. You've played in Germany. You've played in England. Having participated in those leagues, what would you say Australian football needs to do in order to reach that level, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a little bit of desperation. In a league where, we were talking earlier, where you can get promoted to the German Bundesliga or you can get relegated to the 3rd tier, or in Scottish terms, you go relegated from the Premiership to the Championship. And we're talking about players losing probably half their salary. And when you got kids, you got mortgages, there's a lot on the line. And I think that's the sort of difference where in Australia, if you come last, you come last, and the next season you back up again, and you're not really sort of players losing their sort of salary and stuff like that. And I think that little bit of desperation, but Australian football, it's still got a long way to go, but that's a big reason why I've come back, is because I feel like I can add something to this game and really pass on experiences to players who are moving on to, say, other A-League clubs. And Western United have taken a few young boys from Melbourne City, and I'm going to pass on them advice and say, look, take this opportunity because this A-League is going to get bigger, and your career's short, so you've got to play as much games as you can.
Yeah. You are now at Melbourne City, as you said, and they are owned by the by the City Football Group, and they've invested millions of dollars in enhancing the club and its facilities. How do you compare the setup at Melbourne City compared to the clubs you've played at Europe? Is it as professional? Is it as good?
Yeah, well, if I was to compare, say, my facilities that I had at Brisbane and Perth compared to with Melbourne City, it's chalk and cheese, and it's a credit to the City Group for doing that, putting that investment into a club, because too many times I see clubs think it as a cost rather than an investment. Players need the best sort of environment, and at City we have a no excuse environment. The fields are the best. We've got the best facilities in terms of ice baths, hot baths, the physio room, the gym. We've got two big gyms. I mean, we walk in there and we get fed as well. So you walk in there and this is your workplace, and it's something we take pride in. I'm there at 8:30 in the morning, just because it's such a great facility. So for me, it's a necessity to have those sort of things as a footballer. But I really enjoy it, and other clubs can take the lead from City and really branch out and have big training grounds.
So you came back from Europe. You're now turning 26 this year, and there are some critical voices out there that say, "Oh, he already played in Europe. We have a striker playing for the Socceroos that had the chance to play in Europe. Now he's coming back to Australia. That might slow down his career, his development." What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, people are going to have opinions, aren't they? But at the end of the day, they're not me. They're not the person that's lived this journey, and along the way. I've said it many times that I've spent 11 years away from my family, and it's not easy when you can't see your mum every day or your dad every day. And as you get older, you start to realise, and over the years I've lost a few people in my family, so you do realise that sometimes you've got to balance out that you're a family man as well, as much as more than you are a footballer. So I kind of it ticked all the boxes to come back to Melbourne, and really at the end of the day I want to grow this club as well. So it's been an ambition of mine to play for a Melbourne club. Obviously now there's 3 coming up in the A-League, but Melbourne City was the right fit, and people are going to put critic on me, but the only way I talk back is by scoring goals, and
which you did already.
Yeah, and I know I can do that.
Yeah.
So look, as long as I'm enjoying my football, the worst thing for me is if you don't enjoy your football, then why are you doing it? So that's the big important thing for me. So look, I just can't wait to, like I said, I'm going to fulfil this contract with Melbourne City, and I can't wait to look to the future.
And speaking of goals, you've scored many in your career, but which one would you say is the most impressive or the most important?
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting one for you guys, but my first goal for Hibernian was at Ibrox against Rangers, and it was a penalty, but the way it happened was a player got brought down in the box, and everybody looked at me as to say, do you want to take it? Because there's 50,000 fans for them, supporting them. And you know what, I just said, I need this goal. I want to take it. So I grabbed it, put the ball down, and buried the penalty and celebrated, like I've scored from 30 yards.
Yeah, of course.
But it was one of those moments where I looked back after the game and said, wow, my dad's Scottish, and for him, I could just imagine what he was thinking. So that's probably my favourite goal.
Yes.
We need to take a quick break, but we'll have plenty more to talk about with Jamie Maclaren when we return. Don't go anywhere. You're watching All About A-League. Welcome back to the second half of the show. You're watching All About A-League. Now, Jamie, I just want to ask you about your World Cup experience. It seemed like you were out of the squad, then in the last minute you got in. During that period when you were out and in, how were you processing this? Not only on a professional level, but on a personal level. How were you taking it all in?
Yeah, it was hard mentally, only because I was off the back of scoring a hat-trick against Rangers, and my club football was in the air. I was in talks with Darmstadt saying, they wanted to sell me, and I was like, well, I'm not going to the World Cup, so you might struggle to get a bit of a fee. So mentally it was a bit of a battle, but look, I look back on that sort of experience, and that really challenged me. I had the full support of my partner, Eva. So, when I was on holiday, then I got a phone call saying you got to come in, and then I got told, Bert van Marwijk said to hold on, stay a couple more days, and we'll let you know if Tommy Jurich's injury gets worse or whatever. So I was kind of, I wasn't sleeping well, and you kind of just think, it's been a dream of mine to go to a World Cup, but that dream had been taken away from me. But then it's kind of, that cherry's been dropped, and it's, you don't know if it's going to come. And that phone call came and said, look, you're on the next flight to Turkey and come meet us in the training camp, but you're still not guaranteed a World Cup spot. You've got to come and earn it. So, look, I snapped at that opportunity. I wasn't going to let that slip, and yeah, it was a great feeling initially, but I went over there and just gave it my all, and it was enough.
So with the Socceroos, I mean, 4 years ago, won the Asian Cup, were on top. And so what, in your opinion, if you compare now struggling to qualify for the World Cup, the Asian Cup didn't really go well, would you say 2015 was, maybe not the normal level that Australia can compete on, so it was a bit of luck? Or would you say, well, the last years something went wrong, and if so how can the Socceroos go back on track?
Yeah, look, I think some things along the way go wrong, but it was more positive, only because I look at it and say, Asia's getting better. The guys around us, the countries around us, they're only getting better. And you look at our younger generations, the Joeys, the Olyroos, even they struggle. And I was a part of the Olyroos and the young Socceroos, and we used to play against Saudi Arabia, and all those boys are playing for Saudi Arabia now, and they were fantastic footballers. And I think people don't realise or give them enough credit about how good Asia is, and we need to step up, and we've got some young experienced guys coming in. And yeah, it's an exciting period, and to be under Arnie, I'm really looking forward to it.
So speaking of Graham Arnold, what's your personal opinion? And would you, when compared to Bert van Marwijk, what would you say, better, worse?
Oh, look, Bert only had a short amount of time with the boys, but everybody knows Arnie's a winner. He's done it his whole career, and especially in the A-League, he's been fantastic. He's won so many championships, I think even he forgets. But look, he's a massive winner, and he's all about positivity, and it's sort of, when you're coaching a young group, there's a lot of expectation on these Socceroos to be sort of like the old golden generation, which you can't always compare because it's different players have different career paths and all that sort of stuff. So look, I've enjoyed playing under him. He's only going to do great things, and I like how he's coaching the Olyroos as well, because that enables him to tell them, look, if you want to get to this level, then you need to do these sort of things and play this sort of way and have a style that goes from the Olyroos up to the Socceroos. So I've enjoyed it, and I really look forward to working under him.
When you scored your first goal for the Socceroos against Palestine, did you feel more a sense of relief that you finally scored rather than joy? Because there was a lot of talk about you not scoring for the Socceroos.
Yeah, look, I think every article they kept saying I was the next Scott McDonald. So I was kind of sick of that tag, and I'd only started 6 or 7 games, but I'm not the type to go out there and start saying to journalists you don't know your facts or whatever. And the teams I played against was Brazil, Chile, England, and they're sort of big nations. You don't get to score against them every week. So, but I took it in my stride, and when I scored that first goal and against Palestine in the Asian Cup, and at that time we needed a goal. We needed to win that game, and there was a bit of pressure from, like I said, from the media back home saying, they're not that good and stuff like that, and they need to win. And I scored early on, and I'm not the biggest guy, so to score a header was nice. But like you said, it was definitely more relief than sort of being able to enjoy the moment.
So you just were talking about the media. Do you feel like when there is a lot of talking about Jamie Maclaren, can you just completely block that out and say, look, or some players say, or I don't even read it anymore? Is it difficult these days? Yeah,
you get to a point where you don't read it, but at that time it was all people wanted to talk about was me not being able to score for the Socceroos, and you can't help but not see it. You go on your phone 1 second and someone's saying, or one of the boys have say, oh, did you see the article? And I'm just like, I'm trying to stay away from it, but you're bringing it back up. But it was one of those things. It's football. It's professional football, and you're always going to be under the sort of limelight. You've got to have public people having their opinions, and newspapers printing what they want, and just get on with it. Just focus on your game, and that's what I've been able to do. And once I got that goal, I was able to just breathe a sigh of relief a bit, and just focus on playing well and enjoying football again in that sort of environment, because it's a high pressure environment, Socceroos. You're representing a country of 23 million, and there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and at the same time it's an honour to go out there and represent your country you grew up in. So I felt like a lot of pressure was off, but I'm also proud of the moment.
So what do you think is in store for the future of the Socceroos? Do you see the situation improving? Because we went to the Asian Cup, we didn't really do that well. Truth be told, it wasn't that good of a performance. People expected more.
Yeah, of course, and us as players know that, and when you don't perform, you kind of, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing because you can look back and look at areas where they didn't sort of work out. But that's what will make us stronger. We're a young bunch of boys, and I think majority of our squad are under 25. And I think, you know, these sort of disappointments leading up to a World Cup campaign will only make us better. And having Arnie there, producing even more quality of the younger boys coming through. And you know, we do lack a bit of experience. You know, let's be honest. You know, you've got a lot of big names that have sort of retired over the last few years, but you know, hopefully my ex-teammate Mark Milligan stays around for a little bit longer, and because we do need that drive. And you know, he's a fantastic footballer, and I love playing with him. He's a warrior, and like I said, we do need that experience. But at the same time, the only way younger players are going to get that experience is by playing in these environments.
Definitely.
I just want to touch up on your career in Europe so far, and you've played in Germany and also in Scotland. What was the difference in football like? Was Germany more technical while Scotland more physical? Like, what were the key differences?
Yeah. Oh, look, to be honest, the Scottish football was, when you played the top 5 teams, it's like you're playing in Bundesliga 2, or you're playing, you know, the bottom half of the Bundesliga. They're just Celtic Rangers, fantastic teams, you know, 60,000 seat stadiums, amazing. And like I said earlier, it comes down to desperation. Teams playing for win bonuses. I mean, some boys were making some serious cash to win games. So, I mean, when you got a kid and you got mortgages, you have that added incentive. And I think, like we touched on earlier, I think Australian football lacks that. But right now, I look back on my time in Europe, fantastic, and you know, it's made me a stronger person and a stronger player.
So coming back then to Australia, and I remember your first match, I was there at AAMI Park, and I was really getting excited, thought, oh, Jamie Maclaren is back, and you expect a little bit of a crowd, and then there were still, how many, maybe 6,000, 7,000. So how disappointing is that when, as you have mentioned, you played in front of 50,000 in Scotland, and what can be done, at least from a Melbourne City perspective, to increase the attendance?
Yeah, look, it's
scoring goals.
Yeah, I'm going to try. No, look, you see Bruno Fornaroli scored some fantastic goals and a lot of goals for Melbourne City, and still kind of struggle with the crowds. And you know, you look at Melbourne as the sort of, you know, sport capital of the world, if you want to say, and you know, with 9 AFL teams and the football teams, there's another A-League side coming from Melbourne, and you know, sometimes there's a lot of people out there who choose not to come. It's on KO Sports or Fox Sports, and it's a little bit difficult to sort of come off your couch. But you know, we will bring the crowds back. It might take us to win a grand final, which possibly could happen. So, but look, there is fans out there that can show up, and look, for me, it's great to be playing in Melbourne. And like you said, AAMI Park, when it's full, is a fantastic football stadium, and
the best in Australia, you would say?
In terms of football, it would be up there. Look, I played a lot of games at Suncorp Stadium as well, and when Suncorp is full and when it's rocking, it's a fantastic environment. And I think Australia's quite lucky with the amount of stadiums that we've got, because you know, I looked when I was in Scotland, there was only 4 or 5 stadiums which held over 20,000, and the rest were 10,000. But Australia have got some fantastic stadiums.
I want to touch up again on your European career. So, out of the many teams you've played and the many opponents you've faced, who would you say is the toughest defender you've had to go up against?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually went through all my sort of swap jerseys the other day when I was moving my boxes, and
how many do you have?
I've got too many.
Must be a lot.
I'm the sort of guy that likes to, you know, have that sort of memorabilia for when I'm older. But I actually have got Skirtle when I played against Liverpool for Brisbane. Chris Smalling was my debut for Australia, and David Luiz at MCG for the Socceroos as well. So those 3, they're all framed now, and like I said, take your pick. They're all world-class centre halves, and
absolutely,
they kept me scoreless. Put it that way.
So you've had a 2-year absence from playing in the A-League when you were away in Germany. During that time, like, have you seen a change in style or a change in the way that football has changed here? Is there a big difference between those 2 years that you've been away?
Yeah, look, when I was playing in the A-League, you kind of get wrapped up in being involved and wanting to win games. And you know, those 2 periods at Brisbane, I was up in the clouds because everything went right for me, and you know, every ball I sort of touched in the box hit the back of the net, and you feel sort of invincible. But when you fly overseas and you get up on a Saturday morning and at 6:30 you watch A-League games, you're kind of thinking, oh, why is the atmosphere not as buzzy? Or you know, maybe this game it's a cracking game, and you kind of, because you're not in that country, you can't experience it, you can't read the papers, you can't see what's been said. But for me, the A-League hasn't changed that much. You know, coaches come and go and players come and go, but the sort of structure of the A-League is great. And you know, all I want and all it's crying out for is just more teams. And when that happens, I think Australia will see the game go to a new level.
Yeah.
So when you say more teams, that would also include then promotion and relegation, as you said? Because now, I mean, you have still the chance, with all respect, to win the championship, although as last year Melbourne Victory had an average season, right? And you have 4 teams now at the bottom of the ladder that have nothing to play for.
Yeah, and that's what comes back to, like I said, in Germany and Scotland, where you're playing for promotion and relegation, and if it comes down to the last game of the season and say a bottom team needs to win their game, they're giving their all, and you'll see that. And that's something Australia will get to, but you know, we're all pushing in the right direction. Players are asking for it. I'm pretty sure clubs are asking for it as well. So although we might be a little way off, but you know, the more teams that come into this environment, then it's only going to, you know, call out for that sort of second division.
We could talk to Jamie all day, and believe me, we want to, but we have to take a quick break. When we return, we'll go over our tips for round 26. You're watching All About A-League. Welcome back to All About A-League, and right now we're going over our tips for the upcoming games for round 26. Just a reminder, all games are in Eastern Standard Time, so check your local listings for times in your area. First up, Thursday 7:50 at Jubilee Stadium, Sydney FC takes on Perth Glory. This is going to be a tough one to pick, so who will win, Bernd?
Well, from that angle, it's a bit disappointing that Perth already has won the premiership now. So I hope they still keep the momentum and give everything, because that second spot, Sydney versus Melbourne Victory, I think is still very exciting. But they might maybe miss that 2% that they need. So I think Sydney will win that one.
Yeah, I think that Perth now will try and maybe hold back a little for the playoffs, but Sydney now need to keep an eye out for the second position. They need to hold on to it. So I'm thinking that puts them in a bit of a favourites position.
Jamie, any insights?
I'm going to go against the grain. I think being a player, winning the Premier's Plate, you're going to be full of confidence, and Perth will just feel like they're on this unstoppable train. So I think they'll win against Sydney.
Yeah, no, I agree. Friday 7:50 at Cooper Stadium, Adelaide United encounters Melbourne Victory. Can Adelaide solidify finals place with a win, Alex?
Well, this one's a bit of a tough one because, as I said, second place is still up for grabs. So Victory have a definite motive, but Adelaide have been good. They've been showing a lot of momentum, and I think anything could happen in this game. I'm going to go for a draw.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, I was at the last match in Adelaide when they really ran over Melbourne Victory in the first half, but this time is a bit different, so a draw.
I'll agree with the boys. I'm going to say a draw, and I hope it's a draw.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Adelaide United.
Why?
Because I feel like it. Saturday 5:35 at Suncorp Stadium, Brisbane Roar plays Newcastle Jets. Can Brisbane notch up another win, Bernd?
Well, I mean, they had the win recently, but now for both of them, Brisbane and Newcastle, I hope there will be a lot of goals for the neutral spectators. Go with a draw.
Yeah, I think Newcastle will go up there and basically just say, look, we've got 2 games to go, and we'll give it our all. And you know, they've missed out on the finals now, but knowing Ernie, he'll go out there and say to the boys, you've got 2 games to go, and just go and get as much points as you can. And yeah, I'll back Newcastle.
Yeah, I think Newcastle too. 7:50 at Central Coast Stadium, the Mariners take on the Wanderers. How will Central Coast go in this one, Alex?
Well, I think the Wanderers have a bit of an edge to win this one. They're coming off a hard-fought draw against Sydney, so they have the psychology on their side. I think that makes them a bit of a favourite, even though the Mariners showed a good performance. They're steadily coming up with Stajic. So this would be a hard contest, but I think the Wanderers should be the ones to walk away with the win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Mariners had a good match in Victory. A little bit unlucky, but the Wanderers will win that one.
Yeah, the Wanderers for me. They've got a bit of fight at the moment, and showing some good character, and you know, they'll give it their all, and I'll back the Wanderers.
Yeah, easy win for them. And to finish the round, Sunday 5 p.m. at Westpac Stadium, Wellington faces Melbourne City. The Phoenix at home are very strong, so how is City going to prepare for this one, Jamie?
It's business as usual. Look, we've got 2 games to go. We want to go into the final series with momentum. We want to score goals, and it's not easy going over to Wellington. It's probably the hardest fixture in the A-League, and you know, we'll give it our all, and look, like I said, we'll score goals over there. And like I said, mate, we need momentum going into these final series, so I back us.
I go with a draw, and Jamie McLaren will score.
Thanks for the support.
Well, good luck, but Wellington are going to win. That's all for this week's edition of All About A-League. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Bern and Alex. Thank you, boys. And a big thank you to our special guest, Jamie McLaren.
Guys,
thank you very much.
Thanks,
we wish you
Jamie.
all the best for
Thanks.
your career.
Thank you very much, guys.
From all of us at All About A-League, have a very happy Easter break. I'm Gabriel D'Angelo. Thank you for watching. Hope your team wins. Bye for now.